Welcome to another tips and tricks session in our special Christmas edition series. Today we're going to talk about how we keep our calculations robust, so they can withstand data being changed, maybe sorted. And we're going to use the magic of the U modifier. Let's have a look. Here we are looking at a table in Target showing revenue by month. And we've added a calculation, which is the monthly growth. It calculates the growth from month to month, from January to February, February to March, etc. And as you can see, it seems to have an error here, and that's because there's no month previous to January. So if we look at the calculation syntax, you can see it actually looks at the current row, 0, and subtracts the previous row, -1. And that explains the error here, because we're trying to refer to something previous to January, and that goes pretty wrong. So that's my first problem here. I want to fix this. So I'm going to make a visibility agent to try and fix it. I'm going to hide a value from the monthly growth. And I'm going to add a condition where I simply count my way down in this table. And when the count is equal to 1, that will be here. Then I'm going to hide the value. So OK to that. So I seem to have fixed that problem. So it looks pretty solid, what I've done so far. But can it pass the sorting test? Let's try. If someone looks at this data and say, oh, I'm going to sort it differently. I'm going to sort it ascendingly. So now July is suddenly first and February is second. So now we're calculating the growth between those two. And July is blank, which is wrong, because the July growth can easily be calculated. It's just from June. So nothing really passed the test, not my calculation, not my calculation here, and not my visibility agent either. So let's go back to the original sequence and fix them both. Let's have a look at the visibility agent first. We're just going to add this small U modifier, which means count your way through the table according to the unsorted sequence, the original sequence of data, and hide number 1. Let's fix the calculation as well. So please look at the current and subtract the previous according to the unsorted sequence of data. So I fixed both. Let's see if it works. If I now, let's remember that from January to February, -50,000. And if I now sort data, if we look at the February growth, we can find it here, still the same number. So even though it's placed under July, it's still calculating the difference from January to February, sorry. And January remains empty because the January growth cannot be calculated. So now my table can actually take some changes. And even better, I think, now you can actually sort it by this growth, which brings up an interesting picture if we sort it descendingly. Now we sort of have a top list of growth. So if we go to properties and hide the original revenue, and then change this into a graph, then we have a fine graph showing us the months where we had the biggest growth, and then going down until where we had the most negative growth. So an interesting chart, really, that we created by using the U modifier. So it served two purposes: making our calculation robust, and also giving us a visualization that we otherwise could never have created, which shows where the monthly growth was biggest. Thanks for watching this tip of the day, and see you tomorrow for another Tips and Tricks Christmas edition.